For today's lesson, I've got a variety of brushes. I probably won't use all of them. I'll probably only use one or two. I've got some water to mix in with my coffee mixture. So I've pre-mixed this. It's 1 teaspoon of coffee and then just maybe a teaspoon of water put into that, or maybe even a little bit more. It might be 1 or 2. I've got a little bit of black ink. I've got a feeling that this isn't going to be dark enough, so I'll put some black acrylic drawing ink into that. If you haven't got black acrylic drawing ink, you can always substitute it with a bit of black acrylic paint, or anything that's water-based that you can mix into the coffee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with putting a little bit of black ink into the well. I'm going to move everything aside. Move the brushes out of the camera. So I've got a scrap piece of paper here, and I've got my drawing that I completed prior to this lesson. So this has just been done in dip pen, in ink, in the black acrylic ink. So before I get going with the coffee, I just want to test the coffee. So, so I'm just dipping it in. So you can apply the coffee like that, and you'll see that it's quite light. You could probably let it dry and work into it in layers. The other thing that you can do is you can take another brush and you can dip it into the water, and you can wet your paper, and then you apply the coffee, and you'll see that it does something completely different. It behaves more like watercolor, and it's a little bit more random, and it could make more interesting marks. I think I'm going to play around with both so you can see what happens. So if I am mixing, let's just see, I want a really dark black. I put some coffee in there, and then I'm going to just take a touch of black ink, maybe a little bit more. Put that down, and you can see I get quite a rich dark color. Just rinsing off my brush again. So that is the only way I could think of working darker values into the coffee. Put another dab into that. Okay, it's gone very dark. Okay, I think I'm ready to start painting on my reference. So I think what I'm going to do is keep it fairly, and I'm going to try, I've got this lovely little brush, I'll try that. I'm going to start with a mid value. So I'm just dipping into the coffee. I'm going to move this aside so that you can see what I'm doing. And hopefully the ink underneath isn't going to run. So this is just the coffee mix with no water added into it, so I haven't really diluted it. So if I did want to go a little bit lighter, I possibly could. So I could always add a little bit of, I'm just dipping my brush into the water, and I could spread it a little bit, and hopefully that'll give me a slightly lighter value. So this has given you a slightly more zoomed view on what I'm doing. And just some water for some lighter values. And I'm dipping even more water in. And her fingers are quite light, so I don't really want to work them up too much. So I really need to work the darks in now, and I'm going to go to my mix of ink and coffee, and I'm going to work some darks into this. And because there's already paint, or it's quite damp, this ink and coffee mixture is seeping, which is quite fun. I quite enjoy random things happening in my art. So I'm not too worried about, if you don't want this type of thing to happen, then just let your work dry and then work into it. It looks like I'm going to have to mix a little bit more. And then the black ink. And her eyes need to be quite dark. Along the side of her face. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work some water into the background. And then let the coffee ink mix do its own thing. So I'm going to take a fairly big brush and some clean water and just apply some water onto the surface. Or you can see it's already seeping in there. And then I think I'm probably going to use the same brush. Oh, look at that wonderful mark. And I'm just letting the water and the ink mix do its thing. And this is already starting to dry. So I think I might even add more water into it. Just mixing coffee into the ink. Well, that's gone really dark. That's fine. This is just water, so I'm pulling this along with water. Okay, this is when an artwork starts to get a bit dangerous for me because I start going wild with the darks. So if I do end up messing this piece up, you'll know it's because I've got no self-control. Well, at least when it comes to making art. Okay, I think I must leave the face there. But I am just loving some of these wonderful bleeding marks. And the face now looks like it's emerging out of darkness, which is what the reference is doing. Just adding more water into these areas. So got a bit dense, I think. Oh, and I'm neglecting the edge. Actually, I think I'll leave that. That's quite a nice contrast, the whites on the edge. Maybe work it a little bit more dark in here down at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is just put this aside to dry. Actually, I think I'm going to work a little bit more. These fingers are a little bit too white, so I'm going to work a little bit more coffee into them. And I'm going to put this aside to dry and we'll come back to it.